This week on MetroStar's Civvies, Chef Opal is joining us in the studio.
Stay tuned because I'll be talking about my journey to become the chef that I am, as well as giving you an amazing recipe at the end.
Welcome to Civvies, where we bridge military experience and civilian triumph. I'm Stephanie Holman, this season's new host and a former Army Medical Service Corps reservist turned technical recruiter. Over the years, I've tackled a variety of terrains from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. Join me as we gather stories and explore the intersection of military expertise and civilian opportunities, providing valuable insights for a seamless journey beyond the uniform. Welcome to Civvies, a podcast by MetroStar. Welcome to MetroStar's Civvies episode. I'm your host, Stephanie Holman, and here at MetroStar, we're making it our mission to make your military transition just a little bit better by sharing the stories of others that have gone before you. From serving in the Air Force for over 20 years to becoming a two-time Food Network Chopped champion, we are joined here at MetroStar's Civvies studio with Chef Opal. Chef, welcome to MetroStar.
Thanks for having me.
We are so excited for you to be here. And, you know, when I have guests on this podcast, I always look for a quote that I think kind of resonates with your journey and who you are. And the quote I want to start with, it's actually by Oprah. And she says that
that's my favorite.
Good. She says that she believes that luck is preparation meeting opportunity. And I think there's so much of your story that speaks to that, right? The years of preparation that eventually led you to being on the Food Network's Chopped show and becoming, you know, a two-time champion. Before we get to that, I wanted to begin with your journey into the Air Force, right? And kind of where that all started. So can you share a little bit about your upbringing and then going into the Air Force?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, for me, I always love food no matter what. And prior to joining, you know, coming into the Air Force, I went through that delayed enlistment program. I don't know if anyone's familiar kind of with that process, but with that, I, you know, saw a recruiter. I was under 18 at the time. So I was able to go ahead and start the process of being vetted to come into the Air Force. And, you know, throughout that, it was just a waiting game of when I could then go to boot camp, you know, and then getting into that, I was given different jobs that were laid out for me, different careers. And one of them was food service. So that was, you know, something that I was really happy about because I always loved cooking. Right. You know, and growing up, going back to that, you know, my first memory of cooking, I was about 5 years old and I made SpaghettiOs. And I remember I wanted to make my little spin on it. So I put shredded cheddar cheese and pepper on it, right? So that was my elevation. But, you know, just even that far back, I knew I always wanted to cook. So, you know, with that, I didn't, you know, come from beginnings that had a lot. I didn't have much, but what I did have, I used to the best of my ability. So my brothers sometimes tell a story of how I made donuts at one point with biscuits, you know, so the Pillsbury biscuits and cutting a hole in the middle and frying it off. And that's, you know, the best I could do at that time. So I always had some type of imagination with it and then a want and a need and knew I wanted to cook. Bringing back to there, coming into the military, that was an awesome offering. At the time when I was to come in, one of the jobs that I was offered. Right. And there's a little bit of a twist with your stories. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about that. What career field did you actually end up going into? So you know, going through that program, you have a guaranteed job. Guaranteed. Yeah. And the quotas were overfilled at that time. Okay. Right? So there were other options given to me. And, you know, a couple weeks before I went to boot camp, I was offered the option to go to security forces. So cool. Security forces. What is that? Right. Asking my recruiter. And she at the time was prior to security forces and a recruiter at the time and explained to me, it's just law enforcement. You know, you just be pulling people over, tickets, stuff like that. Okay. At some point you'll get the chance to actually retrain if you want. There are options. So cool. You know what? I want to go. I need to go. Right. You know, I'm on a timeline, graduating from high school, needed to come into the military to start my life. And so I took it. it was not what she was explaining it was all around.
Okay.
So, there's more to it. There is the side of law enforcement. There is air-based defense, UR combat. There's nuclear security. There's so many different areas of that. So, lo and behold, going through training, it was a different time for me. It was something I was not necessarily mentally ready for, but got through it the best that I could. And I made it through.
So, how did you handle that change, right? So you want to join the military, you have an idea of kind of, what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then here comes security forces into part of your story. How did you deal with that?
I mean, for me, it was a little tough, but I just went with it. I mean, my background coming from the inner city in Los Angeles, and it was kind of a do or die for me situation. It was like, hey, you know what? I'm going after this career no matter what. I'm going into the military and I'm going to make it. And that was my whole purpose in life at that point, is wanting to be a part of, something greater than myself, wanting to serve my country as well. The benefits were awesome, of course, and what we receive when we go through schooling, all these things that were offered. So I made a mission for myself to just make it through and do the best that I could with it. And I kind of just went head into it. I'm one of those people, if I'm given a challenge, I'm just going to go with it and we'll just see what happens. I'll do my best that I possibly can. Yeah.
Right. You remind me of, we can't, there's a saying, and I'm probably not getting it right, but we can't win the war out in the world unless we win the war internally.
Absolutely.
With ourselves mentally, right? And life is unpredictable. There's a lot of changes along the way. Just things happen, right? And when they do, how are you going to react to that?
Absolutely.
And do you stay on the course of kind of what you're passionate about, or do you have to deviate? And sometimes it's okay. It's okay to deviate.
Yeah.
How long were you in security forces total?
I was in security forces for a little over 14 years.
Oh, wow.
14 and a half years. I served various areas. I think I hit every facet you could in the different areas of our career field. I did nuclear security is where I started. I went from Los Angeles, being dropped into Cheyenne, Wyoming, complete culture shock.
Right. Yeah. What base? You got a
F.E. Warren Air Force Base.
Okay.
Yeah. F.E. Warren Air Force Base was my first base. And it was a challenging mission. It was a very challenging mission, but it made me stronger. It made me become who I am today. It's kind of one of those pieces, we talk about resiliency a lot. For those that are in the military, you hear that word a lot, right?
Right.
And it's not something, that just happens. I think it's built along the way.
Right.
When we learn how to get through things and how to deal with the things that, happen to us, or the different things that we're given throughout life. How do you handle those things? And it kind of started there. So it was everywhere in Air Force Base, did a lot of, soul searching there, I will say, more than anything. Yeah. But it was good for me. I met some great people that are still great friends to this day, that I can say it was great.
Yeah. So piggybacking on, resiliency, how did you keep your passion alive for cooking during that time? I would imagine security forces, it's high up tempo.
Absolutely.
Where do you find the time, right, to pursue your passion outside of that?
Yeah, it's tough. You're working 12 to 14 hour days, sometimes longer, depending on what's going on. I cooked any way I could at that point. Wasn't skilled, I will say. That was kind of a beginning basis. Cook what I knew. Okay.
And what did you know? I have to ask, what were your earliest dishes? I
mean, the basics, let's make spaghetti together. Let's make, I wasn't really quite well skilled with other cuisines yet, world cuisines, things like that. I love different foods around the world that I've learned how to make from being based in different places and traveling and stuff like that came later. But it's whatever I knew at the time I made. But also I learned how to make other things from the people that I was friends with, right? So we all come from different cultures. So it was pretty cool to be able to then learn from others. Like I said, my best friend taught me how to make lumpia, right? Right. Coming from a Filipino background and things like that, and chicken adobo and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. So I learned along the way from others, and we cooked together. And that's kind of how I was able to keep my passion alive, because I always loved doing it.
I'm getting a visual of like you in the military dorms cooking, and then rooms, folks airmen in their rooms, like sticking their nose up, like, chef she's cooking, she's in the kitchen. So how did you really like hone your culinary skills? So it sounds like you got some exposure through different friendships, world travel, to different dishes. But like, can you talk to me about the kind of turning point where you realized you were good at it?
My turning point, I feel that I always had a gift for it. I knew inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I knew was something that I needed to pursue in life. The question was, how was I going to get there?
Right.
In the military, it's tough because, we're given a specific career field and that is what we give 100% to, which is nothing wrong with that. That's our job. But sometimes we have other aspirations in life to do something else. And for me, that was to become a chef. So more so than anything, my biggest push was after I came back from Afghanistan. I mean, I went through quite a bit of different things while I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And, the epiphany of, hey, look, life is short.
Right.
You have to live your dreams. I was doing the job that I was doing while I was in service, but my dream was still to become a chef. To own that, I, would watch different YouTube videos, believe it or not. Gordon Ramsay, my favorite absolute chef of all time. And I would watch all of his videos that he had on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So over 400 plus videos on how to make different things. So, over, my time off, whether it be when I got off work or my days off, I would look at what was being made and I'd read recipes and I try to, reproduce it. The best of my abilities. And, that was my biggest way of being able to do so. So more so self-taught before I was then classically trained at that point.
Oh, okay.
So I just tried to learn as much as I can. I would watch videos. The traveling came into play later with other friends that were stationed in other places. So taking part in that, it was a really big deal for me.
Yeah.
We don't realize everything that we're giving. It's so special, right? It's such, the biggest blessing that we can receive while we're in the military is having the ability to travel. So
absolutely.
I wasn't stationed in the places that they were, but I had friends that were stationed in Europe and I said, hey, you know what? I'm going. They invited me. I went. We ate at different places. I immersed myself in the culture and the food. And when I'd go home, I say, okay, I want to figure out how to make this. And my biggest thing was mimicking flavors. I've always been very good with mimicking what I tasted, finding the different ingredients throughout it and then trying to reproduce it and reading about it. And I just get truly into it.
Yeah.
And that's
I can see the passion, like your soul, your eyes are just lighting up.
I love it.
This is truly where you're meant to be.
Yeah. It's like art. At the end of the day, for chefs, it's pretty much art. It's our creation. And that was my biggest forefront to just go gung ho with it. So I spent some time, a couple of years, just really pushing to learn as much as I could.
I got to go back on Chef Ramsay. When I think of Chef Ramsay, Hell's Kitchen, you're under fire, somebody's yelling.
Yeah.
Were you watching Hell's Kitchen at the time, or were these different YouTube videos of
These were
of
the
Chef
different, I watched Hell's Kitchen, of course.
Okay,
that's one of its more popular. There's so many different shows he has out there. I just admire him as a chef for his knowledge, his work ethic. And the videos that I did watch were more so the teaching aspect of cooking, right?
Okay.
So there's multiple different shows that he has out there, multiple different YouTube links that you can find for different recipes that you can follow along, right? Teaching you how to make something basic as how to sear a steak. That's how I learned how to sear a steak properly.
Wow. Okay.
Watching a video on how to cook a proper, ribeye or something like that. And I felt like it really helped me. Yeah.
And I imagine through that process, there's a lot of trial and error.
Absolutely.
Right? You're maybe burning stuff, over seasoning stuff. It's not perfect, right?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the first time I made pasta. It did not come out right.
Yeah.
Making pasta from scratch. So, it's like I said, trial and error, right? It's almost like, I call it like science, in a sense. So you build that hypothesis, the what if and what's the end result. So then you go through all the variables until you just get it right in the very end.
So just keep showing up.
Keep showing up.
That's something I definitely want our veterans that are watching, especially that are coming up on a transition, right, is just keep showing up.
Absolutely.
Testing things out, experimenting, and get creative. It sounds like you've been pretty creative. Reading and knowing a little bit more about your story, there's kind of a transitionary point where you go into the role of an enlisted aide. Can you tell me Just talk to me about that. How did you end up applying to become an enlisted aide? Did someone tap you on the shoulder? How did you get there from security forces?
Yeah, so a funny story behind that. I spoke of my aspirations to everyone around me, anybody that I met. Everybody knew I loved to cook. And my best friend that I was stationed with at F.E. Warren, and we were stationed in Korea and Japan together.
Oh, wow.
Find that, right?
Yeah.
She came across an enlisted aide. They had a career fair. We were stationed in Okinawa, Japan at the time, and the Kadena Air Base.
Okay, which I've heard is fabulous.
Everyone
likes Oki.
It's an amazing base. And there's a career fair. There was a table set up, and enlisted aide was there talking about different special duties that were out there that you could apply for.
Oh, okay.
And it's not something that's very much, to my knowledge, in my opinion, heard of, because there's only so many that we have in the Air Force. Other branches have more, but the Air Force is a very small number as well. So she explained the career field to her, and hey, cooking, right? So a part of it was cooking. So that sparked my best friend's attention. She's like, hey, you should do this job if you can. So that began my journey to try to actually get into the career field.
Okay.
Which was still a long journey thereafter to even become selected and be a part of it.
Gotcha. And then eventually you end up supporting 2 generals?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That came about, for literally 5 years. Any commander that I came across or supervisor I came across, I, explained to them, hey, I'd like to retrain into this specific special duty. And it was one of those things, the Manning wasn't there at the time to release me. And that was the given answer every single time. Hey, we can't let you at this time.
So multiple no's.
Multiple no's.
Right. Okay.
And, I couldn't let that stop me. I had to keep trying, because for me, it was either going to happen while I was in service or while I was out.
Right.
One or the other was going to happen for me, I believed. And while I was in, I was still going to try to take that chance to be able to be a part of it. I went from Japan back to Korea. I went to Korea twice in my career. And at that time, I couldn't be released just due to time and grade that I had at the time at my specific rank, and a certain time frame I still had left in the military. I had to make a specific rank, and I had some great leadership around me that were actually trying to help me, but I only had so much time left on my contract, and there's other things that I had to do in that process. I got sent back to F.E. Warren.
Okay, so round two, F.E. Warren. Okay.
And I fought it. Hey, I don't want to go. I did a year in Korea. What are we talking about? It's my base of preference I'm supposed to get.
Right. I was going to say, you usually get to kind of choose from your dream sheet.
Choose, and I hadn't made E6 yet.
Okay.
So I, if I didn't make E6 that year, during that time in the military, you had to then separate by 15 years if you didn't make it.
Okay.
So I was on that cusp of literally 13, 14 years.
Right.
So I didn't have enough tenure to stay in longer. Therefore, base was picked for me.
So F.E. Warren again.
F.E. Warren again.
Okay.
So, I tried to fight it, couldn't get out of it. Was pretty down and out about going back, because that wasn't a choice for me, with the mission that they had there. And, it's probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because that's when I got my break, when I went back.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the why, right?
Yeah.
And so you got your break, and then it sounds like you finally got your yes.
Yes. Yeah. Came across some great leaders and found myself working for my commander at that time. And, him and my supervisors and other people around me were very open to the thought process that I had of, hey, can I actually retrained? And it was a no-brainer for him. He was like, well, yeah, what do you need to do it?
Right.
What? And it was that, that easy, because someone actually just took a chance on their troops and listened, and, knew that someone that they had under them had a gift, and they were meant to be elsewhere.
I love that you kept speaking it into existence.
Absolutely.
And telling the folks around you, right, about your goals and your dreams. I have to ask, did you ever bring food in? Right?
I did.
Slide a cupcake over to the commander.
I did. So we would bring food in sometimes. And I made something that I didn't know one of his favorites. I was learning how to make just Dutch pancake and different compotes. So I did a blueberry compote, blueberry sauce for those that don't know. And I brought it in, for breakfast with the staff that I worked with within the office, and was like, guys, try this. I don't know if you like it. And he had it, and he said, man, that reminded me of, my grandmother's or something of the sort within his family, because that was his background. And, that meant a lot to me, saying, hey, what I was able to duplicate
what you were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Right. You nailed the ingredients.
Yes.
What were some of the key skills or lessons that you learned while working as an enlisted aide?
Oh gosh, there's so many. So to kind of just encompass that job in itself, you're an estate manager, you're a private chef, you're an event planner, you're an assistant to, a general officer.
I'm seeing hats.
Lots these of hats.
Yeah.
So time management was big. Organization, attention to detail, right? It's the number one. Attention to detail. Oh, it comes into play in that job, because you can't mess up when it comes to those jobs. It's a very high stress situation that you're in, and depending on what billet you're put into as well. Sure. And my first position was at the Air Force Academy.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, I worked with the superintendent that was there at the time, the year and a half that I was in that position, we did over 60 events, and numbers between 200 to 400 or more.
So you're cooking for that number of individuals, or you're just cooking for the general that you're supporting?
You're cooking for the general you're supporting. You're cooking for portions of the events that you're doing. You do sit down dinners, things like that too, for smaller numbers. It was myself and another person that was my senior aide at the time. I was the junior aide in training, and it was big. It was a big position.
Yeah.
So, it got me going. And the home that we took care of was 11,000 square feet.
Sorry, I'm taking that number, visually imagining. Huge.
Yeah. So I learned how to get around quick, which helped me run around run around chop stage, So I learned how to get food around as quickly as possible. But yeah, just, you learn quite a bit, especially with time management, and, organizing the process throughout it. And I was able to go to culinary school when I, became an enlisted aide. So that was something big for me to be able to learn the technical aspect of what I didn't know about cooking.
Cool.
Yeah.
And can I ask what culinary school? How long was it?
Yeah. So they send you to a course. First you do an advanced culinary course. And that's held at now Fort Gregg-Adams. Oh, okay. Used to be Fort Lee. And it's actually a joint program. And I went to there first, and then I did a pro chef program at the Culinary Institute of America. And that was a dream. We couldn't do the 2 to 4 years that, is usually offered, but there's a program there where you can do the professional chef program. There's 3 levels, and they send us to the first level, and you can go on to do more thereafter. So yeah, that was, it's a really awesome experience. I then was able to teach the advanced culinary program later after I left a billet as an enlisted aide. So it kind of came full circle for me.
Came full circle. Very cool. When you were an enlisted aide, were there any repeat dish requests? Did a general request a dish over and over again that you made that they really liked?
They did like the au gratin potatoes that I would make. Yeah. So that was one that they did like, but I mean, the menus were changing variously. Okay. You work with the general spouse that they have building the events. You work with the general themselves, or things that they may or may not want for the event. So it was ever changing. Yeah. So a lot of the background of what I had learned, especially in different cuisines and stuff like that, it helped me be able to be fluid with what was asked for, to be able to then cook those specific dishes that were wanted at the time.
Yeah. Very cool. I want to switch gears here and talk about advice for military members that might not be in their chosen career field, right? Yeah. And just kind of like, what general advice would you give to someone that maybe is in a similar position to where you were in the past?
I think, the biggest thing that I would tell someone is just, keep your eyes on your final goals, right? So what dreams do you have? And, focus on that as well. Of course, do your best with where you're at, but focus on the ways that you can get to where you want to be in life. And that would be my best advice. That's something that I personally did. So for me, it was, it took me so long to get to where I wanted to be, but when that opportunity came, I was so ready for it because I practiced, because I did my research, because I continued to work for it. And I believed it was going to happen. right?
Right.
And don't get down on yourself. There's a lot of people get down on themselves, right? There's that negative aspect too, behind certain areas in the military. Sometimes it's a lot of people are happy and some people aren't happy with what they're doing. And you can't sit in your position and say, you know, woe is me. It's what can you do to get out of that position? Look for the outlets. What are the outlets out there for you?
Right.
You got to do your research, right? Everything can't be handed to us. We're given so much already. We have to look for what else is out there for us as well while we go through it. And that's something that I did that I can say, hey, take my story, right?
Right.
And from my perspective, I had to train myself in any way possible if I couldn't get to culinary school at the time, right?
Right.
And then I invested into myself in other ways, even financially, to have the ability, if you have the ability to, and just stay focused and don't give up.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're definitely a testament to that. And back to that, quote with Oprah, all those small steps eventually lead you to Food Network Chopped. We got to talk about it. How in the world did you apply? Did someone submit an application for you? Talk me through that process.
This is another one that comes full circle for me. That is just mind blowing how it happened. So, in 2021, summertime, I'd like to say, sometime along that time frame, there was an announcement on their casting page for military chefs to apply. And I was looking at it and just thought, man, should I do it? I don't know. And it's always that fear of, what if they don't pick me? What if I don't know if this is, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. So, on my own, I applied, actually got a call back and did an interview. And then I didn't hear anything back.
Okay.
So I just let it be. I didn't hear anything back. I figured, you know what? I didn't get it. I didn't see anything air at that time. And so I just wondered what happened. And I never really knew what happened.
Right.
So moving forward, 2022, around summertime again.
Okay. So
almost one year later. Yeah. I get an email from my supervisor at the time and said, hey, there's actually, she's like, there's an opportunity for a cooking show. Do you want to apply for it? I didn't really know what they were talking about. I thought it might have been a military-based cooking show, something like that. So it's like, all right, yeah, I'll do it. Right. I'll take the opportunity. I filled out the application. And then I think it's no more than 2 weeks later, I get an email from the Food Network and the other liaisons with the DOD that were working with them say, hey, you've been chosen for the Chopped military tournament. And I was like, what?
Was this? Yeah, right. Yeah. Was this one of those moments where you're like, I know exactly where I was, what I was wearing, the temperature outside?
I do. It's like everything gets silent and you start thinking of everything. It was kind of like that rush, that wave of, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I told a coworker when I did apply prior, and he sat next to me, and I let him know, like, hey, I got chosen. I didn't, my God, I got chosen.
And so probably out of hundreds or even more.
However many.
Right.
Yeah. I never knew the full number of who did apply, but it's you're one out of however many did apply. And that was everything.
Just incredible. So I have a couple go backs. When you were first applying, you mentioned the what ifs that kind of go through your mind. I think that's a very shared human experience, right? Sometimes we close the door on ourselves.
Absolutely.
Talk to me a little bit more about what that process was for you mentally to push past that. Yeah. It may be self-doubt if you had any, or other what ifs.
I think it's that form of imposter syndrome a lot of people have, right? That common saying, you don't really believe in who you are, what you have to bring, and you have to really just find it within yourself to push forward. Yep. And I thought the only way to find out if I had it or not was to try for it.
Absolutely.
That was the only way.
Right.
And I had talked about, when I was young, I used to watch the Food Network, and throughout my adult years, I've watched the Food Network and kind of just dreamed of being on there at some point. And I watched a lot of Chopped. I watched it all the time. And I would say, oh, I would have did this. I would have did that. Behind the scenes, it's completely different. But when you're on the other side of the TV, you can talk about all the things you're going to do.
You sound like me when I'm watching Naked and Afraid from my couch in 70 degrees. I'm like, I could build that.
I would have done
lot faster.
Different. Yeah. So it was one of those things. And I had always aspired to be a part of it. So also another story, it's kind of funny how that comes around again. I went to a conference, a chef's conference at some point in 2018, and Chef Mignon was there, one of the Chop judges, and she's Tournament of Champions, all these shows she's done, amazing chef. Her list goes on for her, the resume, what she's done within her career, was there and had a book signing, and I met her and got her book, and she wrote in there, "Dear Opal, spice it up, don't get chopped."
Oh, I love it.
And and the crazy thing is, years later,
here you are.
Here I am.
Spicing it up, and you didn't get chopped.
Didn't get chopped.
You went on to win.
So
twice. Yeah.
So it all comes around. So for me, I took those as signs, the different signs in life, to keep going and to go for it. Just go for it, because you never know what could happen.
And again, I love as well that your supervisor knew what you were passionate about. So you're sharing it again with the people around you, and then through the series of events. Here we are. What was the atmosphere on the set of Chopped? I'm just thinking as a viewer, right? An audience member, high stress. I would burst into confetti. What was the atmosphere?
It's very fast paced.
Okay.
It's very fast paced. Everything's organized very well, I will say, the way that they do the production. And, we're kind of just finding our way as we go through each round and every process of it. And I was very stressed. I'm not going to say that I wasn't. I was very stressed, but I came in with the mindset that I was going to make it through, and that belief that belief system that it's going to work. It's going to happen. I'm going to make it. And just, had to find everything that I could in me to make it through the 15-hour day of taping, or however long, 12 to 15. It's a very long day. Okay. Yeah, it's a very long day. Different breaks you take in between. Of course, they got to reset the set, of course, for the next round, or judging that's going to happen, stuff like that, lunch breaks and so forth. But it was very, very, very high tense. It was fun at the same time, to say, because I think that's one of those things as well. Being in the military, we learn how to work under pressure. Right. So for me, it was like, myself and my counterparts as well. It was it was natural for us. Like, hey, let's go. Okay, what's next? We're waiting for our next, time to get on the set, or we're in the break room waiting for the next portion we have to tape, and you're gearing up, you're waiting, you're nervous, you're nervous wreck, and then you get out and you have to perform.
And you execute.
You execute.
Right. Were there any dishes that you were especially proud of when on Chop that you created?
Yeah, I love that they were able to incorporate some of the Asian vibes for the main dish that I was able to make, a stir fry that I was able to put together. And the baskets that they had, the mystery baskets. Yeah, that they produced. My
anxiety is like, woo! Like, what do you mean the mystery basket? What is in the mystery basket?
What's in the mystery baskets? The mystery baskets that they made had some flavors that I was able to, or ingredients I was able to incorporate into Asian flavors, and I was able to showcase that. So I was very happy about that, because I really love Asian food. I learned how to make quite a bit of it when I was stationed in Japan and in Korea, and that and Italian food is just, it's near and dear to heart.
Yeah. So again, some of these previous life experiences or friends that you met along the way.
Yeah.
Comes
it's
back.
Really awesome.
How do you think your military background and experience influence your performance and your approach on Chopped? You talked about working, under high pressure situations.
Yeah, I think the discipline that we learn, right? The discipline, working through the high pressure environment, being able to just go with the flow, it helped. Oh my gosh, it helped quite a bit. Yeah, and being able to move with a purpose. Being able to move with a purpose. Especially when there's so much going on around you. We're kind of able to just focus on exactly what that task is at hand. And I think that helped quite a bit.
What was the moment of winning Chopped like for you? Did you think you were going to win?
I didn't know.
You didn't know?
I didn't know, and in my mindset, standing at that point, waiting to know if I got chopped or not, I think my whole life flashed before me, where I was just thankful to be there. It was just it was overwhelmingly good at the same time, right? Yeah. So it's one of those things, you have those epiphanies that all just pop up if you really just take life into a view of, and scope of, wow, this happened so I could get here. This had to happen so I could get here. And in that moment, when I found out, it was very emotional. experience. It was very emotional. I think about it today and I get teary eyed. I'm like, oh man,
don't,
where's
the Kleenex? Does it happen to go?
It's every part of my life had to happen to prepare me for that. I went through everything that I did to prepare me for that. Had I not gone through the struggle of the career field I was in that I didn't want to really be a part of, to then becoming a part of where I wanted to be and becoming a chef, I don't think I would have been as thankful for it. So, I didn't know. You just don't know what's going to happen, because the mistakes that you make. You're cooking in a different manner than you usually would, of course, using ingredients that we're unfamiliar with, taking that, trying to enhance your dish with it. There's
a time constraint.
It's a time constraint, absolutely.
Too, right? Yeah.
And there's some things I wish I could have changed, but you're cooking in 30 minutes. I mean, you're doing the best you can in 30 minutes, right? So, that was a great moment when it did happen. Yeah.
I think something just really powerful that you said is you paused, you took that moment in and you looked around. Right. Yeah. And realized just how amazing that was, and had gratitude for all of the steps that it took you
I was thankful
to get there.
I don't know if judges were probably like, what is wrong with this girl? But no, I was not upset at all. I mean, those were tears of joy. That was, my gosh, what a struggle, and what a triumph in the end to get to where, I was able to get. And even more special too, you had Sunny Anderson was one of our judges, and she was a veteran. And knowing she was a veteran, and I, watched her shows and having that connection, and they understand, those that are in the military understand what we go through, whether you do, a few years or you do 20 years, we're all a part of it, right? We all give our sacrifice when it comes to giving a portion of our lives to this country and to the mission of what protects this country. So
I personally, I love the emotion that you showed. It just means you're human like the rest of us, right?
Yes.
Right? You're feeling the same.
I was not ashamed. You know, a lot of people are afraid to show it. I mean, it was real. It's real. This is a girl from Los Angeles, that spent her weekends at her grandmother's house in Compton, and, survived through a lot of different things, survived through things within her career, survived through, certain experiences that I didn't think I was going to make it out of when I was, in wartime era, of our job, and a lot of dangerous situations that built me to become who I am. And then training to become a chef was everything. So it was a very real moment.
Yeah. What did you learn from competing on Chopped? I guess more specifically, how has Chopped influenced your cooking style? Has anything changed with your cooking style?
I don't think it's really changed much. I still, honestly, I am that crazy chef that was timing myself when I made things before.
Oh, you were? Okay.
I was that person that did that. I have to pull back sometimes at home. When I'm cooking, my partner will say, hey, it's okay. It's just dinner, well, I have to prepare myself for this next, if I am training for something. But no, I think it gave me that want, and it gave me that need to continue on, right? If there was an opportunity in the future to do something else, be it another cooking show or anything that I am a part of, I just will continue to practice for that. Yeah.
What advice would you give to another service member out there who would love to be on Chopped or another cooking competition? What do you wish someone had told you before applying?
Gosh. I did get good advice actually before going, because a lot of people told me to go for it. And I was the one that was in my own head. So my best advice would be to get out of your head and just go for it. Believe that you are to be a part of that you can be a part of that. Think more of yourself, right? If you don't, I knew that I had a knack for cooking. I knew that I had a gift for cooking, and I was told that for so long. I just needed to believe it in myself.
Right.
And just go for it.
And I think that translates throughout any career field. You have to believe in yourself.
Absolutely.
If you don't, you got to believe in yourself.
Absolutely.
That's where I think some of the best stories begin. The viewers of MetroStar Civvies podcast, they're going to come after me if I don't ask you this question. They're going to come after me in the comments. Is Chopped staged?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
So everything we're seeing is
It's real.
It's real.
It is real. Yes. It is very real. You get a few seconds to look at what you have as you're pulling out for a take and put it back in and, all right, open your basket, go. You know, there's nothing. I've been asked questions of, did you get to build your menu? Did you get to write out your menu? Absolutely not.
Right.
You're thinking on the fly. It is what it is. Yeah. So that's what makes it, even more intriguing and awesome to watch because, you know, people are thinking, you know, on the whim. They're thinking on the fly of what am I going to make? Oh my God, your mind is just racing and you're trying to remember all the steps as well to take when it comes to cooking because everything is just so crazy at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you still in contact with any of your fellow contestants? That I think of like boot camp, right?
Yeah.
I know so many soldiers that I went through boot camp with because it's a unique shared experience.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, were there any kind of friendships that blossomed?
Yeah. I mean,
chefs?
I still follow, everybody follows each other on Facebook.
Okay.
One of the chefs that I was able to go to the White House with, you know, actually he messaged me not too long ago to show me we were in one of the historical quarterlies that are put out.
Oh, very
we
cool.
actually made that. So it's, I think we'll always have that bond, especially what we went through, you know, and as a team coming together in the last challenge, that was a part of the tournament. And we always have that. And it's so special to have been a part of that with them. It was an honor cooking with each and every one of them. So yeah, it was great meeting with them. And I think that they know that I'm here now, retired in the industry. And if anybody ever needed anything from me, I'd be there.
Yeah. I would imagine competing at that level, it just raises your bar as
Absolutely.
Well as a chef. So what's next for you in this culinary journey?
I am all over the place. So
tell us about it. Let's unpack it.
Yeah. Now, right now I have some projects coming up. Some I'm keeping in right now that I'll then feature out. But I started my own consulting business actually my last year in the military. So I do culinary consulting for different businesses, be it if they need help with building the restaurant in any areas, menu development, recipe testing, training, stuff like that. So that's my biggest mission now, and possibly may see something in a brick and mortar in the future.
Okay.
So there's
very
some plans for that, for possibly restaurant style and some teaching involved as well within the establishment. That's all I'm going to give for now.
Gotcha.
So, it's
we'll
some business plans that are being built here in the next few years that are going to come about. But for now, I'm running my own business when it comes to consulting, and have quite a few projects here coming up in the future that I'm super excited about when it comes to cooking. Yeah.
Very cool. We will definitely stay tuned.
Yeah.
As you know, we could not let you out of here without going to MetroStar's kitchen. So we're going to tape a little bit more in there and hear a little bit more about your journey.
All right. I'm excited.
Thanks, Chef.
Yeah.
We are back with Chef Opal, military veteran, and also 2 times Food Network Chopped champion. We could not let her out of here without bringing her down to our kitchen.
So I'm going to be making you some filet mignon with celeriac puree. You'll also have some sauteed asparagus and a little bit of herb oil to finish that off with crispy leeks.
And for those of you watching, it smells amazing in here. Our crew has been going in and out. We've all been drooling, and I know that they want me to just stop talking and get straight to the food.
All right, well, I'm going to get started by just seasoning off the meat. Generously, of course. You don't want anything bland. Anything left over on the cutting board, I don't want to waste it. So I'm just going to use it to make sure that everything gets well seasoned before we sear it off in the pan. So I got my pan already in the oven, nice and hot. Quick trick for anyone out there that wants to cook a steak and you're in a hurry, go ahead and heat up your cast iron in the oven, get your flame on, and you'll be good to go.
All right, Chef, tell me what's next.
All right, I'm gonna get the steaks in the pan. We're gonna put it on for about 2 to 3 minutes each side, looking for that nice crust, right? Before we put it in the oven. Let it go. Don't touch it.
Don't touch it?
Don't
Okay.
touch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't mess with
Not
it.
till we get that nice crust.
I love that tip because I think a lot of beginner cooks, we want to, get in there, do something with it.
Yeah, it's not going to speed up the process. Just let it go and do its thing. Most you can do is just move the pan around if you want to get more even heat, but other than that, you don't want to touch it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You're just looking for that nice sear, right? About 2 to 3 minutes. Don't want to move anything around, right? It's sticky and things like that. And then when you pick it up, it'll be hard to pick up. When it's easy to lift, that's your best bet to then flip it.
Okay.
So we're just waiting on that. And you can see kind of on the sides, the bottom of that, you'll start seeing the color change a little bit. Right here on the edge, you just want to look for it turning brown, as you can see there. You're starting to get that nice crust building.
Why did you choose this meal to make?
I chose this meal to make because most people that I do know and I have cooked for, they always ask me for a steak. And I usually cook fillets for most of my friends and family. And this is just a meal I wanted to share with you all as well, too,
Nice.
so you can try it as well. All right. Go ahead and turn it over.
Ooh, that smells so good.
Thank you. All right, got that nice crusty top.
And Chef, are you saving any of the juices for anything?
Not today. If I was making a really nice sauce with it, I would definitely save those juices, and you can then use that to fortify your sauce and build more flavor. Any of that leftover fond, as we call it, in the pan, right?
Okay.
All those good bits are really nice to use for any type of sauces if you are going to ever make that.
Nice.
Yeah. I love searing all sides. I think it makes for beautiful color in the very end for your steak. It's cooked all the way around, and it just makes for a nice presentation. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add all the aromatics and your butter. Baste it with that nice butter. Now when doing this, I turn off the heat just so my butter doesn't split. It'll be nice and frothy for the steak. Give it some good color as well too once we're cooking it.
And about how much garlic did you put in?
I put about 4 cloves. I like garlic. You know, if you're doing 2 steaks of this size, you can do about 2 cloves if you're not much big on garlic. I love my garlic, honestly. This is kind of one of the traditional ways of making the steak itself. You don't have to use butter. You can also just use whatever excess oil that you have in the pan to baste your steaks if there's any type of dietary restrictions. Or, you know, if you don't want to specifically use butter itself too, you can also just use any residual or oil in your pan or whatever you're using for it. And, you know, if it's hard to tell what temperature, you can always use a thermometer, right, that you can use in the oven as well. You see this nice string, it'll be able to hang over. So once we do put that in the oven, we'll be able to keep track of the temp. And then it'll go off for you as well once it's done. Try to keep it about midway through, because internally that nice temperature that you want to find is about halfway through the steak itself.
Oh, okay.
Reading about 118 right now. We'll put that in the oven. I'm looking for 138.
Gotcha.
Carryover cooking is the thing. So I'm looking for it to hit about 145 when we're done. So that's why I pull it out just a little under that specific temperature so we can reach the desired temperature that we want.
You can see how much I cook steak. I'm like, how long is it supposed to be?
Yeah.
What are
I
you doing?
honestly don't, you know, when I cook, it's not for time. It's
Okay.
more so like when it's ready. That's like the rule of thumb. Timing is everything. Yes, it can take, you know, a specific amount of time for certain things. But also, if I'm coming into play and running into something like this today, like I think my thermometer's off, so I'm just gonna feel for it. It's still pretty rare, especially
So what are
with
you
how much give.
what are you feeling for? It's a certain firmness?
Yes.
Or okay.
Exactly, certain firmness. So if I know it's still a little under, I'm gonna give it some more time. You have to be patient with it. It's not a rush process. It's one of those things that you just gotta look, feel, smell for everything that's happening and just wait for it to be ready.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Don't rush it.
All right, too easy. And do you remember how long your episode of Chopped was, or the season? Like, is it filmed over a couple weeks, a couple months?
Oh no, so the way that they did it, I knew that was higher. Yep, we're almost done with this one. So the way that they did it, we did it all in one day. And then whoever won your branches episode, you went back to your base, you waited to get a call back, and you went back and did the team.
Oh, okay.
So I literally, within 4 to 5 days, I was back. So
Wow.
went to
Wow.
New York to tape. We did the competition. I flew home the next day, was home for the weekend. I think I flew out on Monday or Tuesday, and then I was back on set for the second challenge. So and it was a different concept, because it was team concept at that point.
Okay, so you're kind of changing gears.
Yes,
Pretty
changing
rapidly.
gears, team concept. You're working with others and trying to work together, but your brain is thinking differently because we all have a given concept we want to utilize, right?
Right.
Different techniques that we use. And you have to just learn to work together with it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people were asking, was it hard to, I think it'd be easy. I heard a lot of comments that it would be easy to work as a team. But people don't realize not necessarily, because you're used to cooking on your own and doing your own things. So as a team, you're learning to work together and figure out what people's strengths are, what your weaknesses
Mm-hmm.
are, and what you can play on with that to divide and conquer the meal in itself.
So how much of your experience with being in the military, right,
Mm-hmm.
helped with that adaptability and flexibility to be able to operate as a team?
Oh, it was great, because we all knew how to take direction.
Right. Okay.
Whether you want to take that direction at that time or not,
Mm-hmm.
you're trusting each other. So we used to trusting each other, trusting the decisions, moving with it. And during our breaks, kind of just talking through, hey, we get out there, don't take it personal. We're not going to take it personal.
Gotcha.
But if we're telling each other something, we got to kind of just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that helped a lot, working with that team dynamic and divvying up the different parts of the meal that we were going to do, and super, super intense.
Right.
super intense. Yeah, it was definitely.
Yeah. What was your favorite, I guess, part of Chopped? I know that I think at one point you were all competing for really good causes to support Blue Star families. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what it meant to you?
Yeah, that meant a lot to us, because we know we're helping, different families that may or may not still have the military member that was, head of the household that took care of their family. There's families that have lost their parents, due to wartime efforts and things like that. And so many different reasons why the Blue Star Families is where it is and why it has become what it is. And that was more of a driving force for us to actually be able to try as hard as we could to win that money, to help out as many people as we possibly could with that.
Yeah,
definitely.
So for those that don't know, what did you win? What did you raise?
So there's a $75,000 pot. We did lose one round, but we were able to come back in 2 rounds and take home at least $50,000 for Blue Star families.
Very awesome.
That was really amazing.
$50,000.
Yeah. I'm going to actually grab one of the steaks out here real quick. All right. So this is the biggest tip when it comes to steak. Let it rest before you cut it. If you were to cut into it right away, you're going to lose a lot of the juices that are in there, right? Those nice juices that you need held in.
I appreciate you sharing the why, right? Why to let it rest. Because someone like me that doesn't have a lot of patience, right?
You just want to cut into it.
You want to dig into it. You want to know, right?
Yes.
Oh, and how long is it resting for?
So I'm going to let this piece of meat rest for probably about 3 to 5 minutes, because it's a smaller portion. So depending upon the size of the meat itself or the protein that you're using is how long you'll let it rest.
Okay.
So this was a relatively smaller steak, so we don't need more than like 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 to 5 minutes it is?
Yeah. So go ahead and check on this celeriac puree real quick. So the biggest thing we're looking for is for it to be spoon thick. You don't want it too thin, but you also don't want it too thick. Spoon thick is when it holds on your spoon.
Okay.
So as you can see here on my spatula, it's holding well, it's holding nice, and it's not just dropping off.
Yeah.
Right? I have to hit it to then knock it off.
Okay.
So that's more something that I'm looking for, to make sure it's thick enough that I can plate with it well, and you're able to get a nice portion of it when you're taking a bite and you're eating it. All right, I'm going to take out the asparagus and the tomatoes now, so we can go ahead and get that plated. Still nice and green, not overcooked. It's got a good bite to it, and you'll see once you eat it.
Okay.
So we got everything ready to plate.
Okay. Where do you start? What's the next step?
So the next step, always, it's ready to eat. So I'm going to wear my gloves to make sure that I'm good to go when I'm plating your food.
So when you're plating, visually, like what are you going for when you put food together? Obviously, you're not just throwing it on there, right?
Yeah. I mean, mainly, I always tell people, rule of thumb, you want to plate something that looks aesthetically pleasing to the person that's eating it. So if I'm going to plate this, I'm going to make sure that it looks good to you. You think it's appetizing. It's appetizing. You eat with your eyes first.
Right.
So if I was to just splatter it all over the plate, it's not going to be appetizing.
Yeah.
And then if you're paying for it, you want a good meal, right? You want that nice visual when you're receiving it. So for me, I just make sure that I just kind of think about what I want to do prior. And when I'm doing even more elevated meals, I like to sketch out my meals as well too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
funny thing, like I say, cooking is art. So
Right.
it's a form of artwork. So a lot of times, a lot of chefs will already have that idea in mind. They will go ahead and sketch it out. Sometimes they just think of it off a whim if it comes to mind too. And that's how usually your plating comes to life.
So it sounds like there's a lot of creativity in this process.
Absolutely, yes. I wish I could have plated a lot better when I was on Chopped, I'm not going to lie. The timing gets you, right? So I did the best I could with that. I like to do a lot more elevated plating when it comes down to any food that I do present. So I did my best one with owning that when I went to the White House and cooked for the First Lady and did a osabuco and a polenta dish there as well too. So did my best with that. So standards are a lot higher in that area. Just a little bit of slurred puree there on the plate. Go ahead and put down some asparagus for you. All right, let's get that steak on there.
I think this is the part we're all
Everybody's happy about,
right?
right? Get some nice tomatoes for you there.
And so, Chef, is this all? It's pretty hot to touch still.
It still is.
Okay.
I mean, but the longer you cook, you end up developing what they call hot hands.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. So we tend to touch a lot of hot foods. I mean, we just get used to it. So this is the herb oil that I made. This is made with parsley leaves. You have all of the leek leaves that were left over from the leeks, utilizing everything for it. So and a little bit of olive oil. Just gonna drizzle a little bit of that on the plate so it looks nicer. And then we'll put some of the crispy leeks that I made. I fried these off a little bit. Put that atop. Give it some height and some good crunch there too. All right, and there you go.
Visually appealing. I am ready to dive in.
Please do.
My goodness. Looks so good.
Thank you.
Chef Opal, where can our viewers find you? I know you do a lot with the veteran community. You've talked about airmen maybe, wanting to do this in the future, but not knowing how to. So where can we find you?
Yeah, so I'm always available for mentorship. That's the biggest thing because you need the mentorship in order to move forward and find your way within the industry. I offer different consulting services, private events, speaking engagements, things like that through my website.
Okay.
www.chefopal.com. You can find me there. I'm also on Instagram as well, Chef Opal. You'll find me through that handle as well. So Chef_Opal_.
Got
That's
it.
how you find me.
We will definitely link that
Absolutely.
on this episode. Warning to those that go to Chef Opal's Instagram. Her food looks delicious. Just putting that warning out there before you go on there.
Thank you. All right.
All right, Chef, you ready to do this?
Yes, please
Okay.
dig in.
Whew, this looks good.
Hope you like it.
Oh, I already know I'm gonna love it. And when you are ready, Chef Opal, I would love to do a fork cheers with you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on to
Absolutely.
MetroStar Civvies.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
You're so good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here again.
Thanks for having me. Yes.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, crew, come on in.